What would you do to get out of a final exam you knew you were going to flunk? Would you throw a surprise birthday party? I did. Let me tell you all about it. Here we go. Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is the RoneyZone Podcast, where we bring relatable nostalgia to life. If you're new here, welcome. We tell stories with humor and heart, and if that's your thing, hit subscribe and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any episodes and new stories. This is episode 6. So it was 1977, and it was after my parents' divorce, and I moved in with my mom in San Diego. And it was a magical time, and I just want to tell you about it. Set the stage. So we lived on Ruffin Road. Doesn't mean anything to you if you don't live in San Diego, but it was up the hill from the old Padres baseball stadium. And it was just a magical place. You could walk anywhere. I met my best friend there, and we saw Star Wars like 35 times. And it was really, really great. We'd walk to school, and across from the school, there was this little mall, a little tiny strip mall. And they had a thrifty store where you could actually take your tubes from your television and test them and buy replacement tubes for your old TV. And then you could buy great ice cream. They had the best ice cream. I don't know if you remember thrifty ice cream. Man, it was so good. That was long before we worried about diabetes. At least that was me. And they had a Radio Shack there. And they had a video arcade in 1977, the late 70s. And it was early games like Pong and Space Race and all that. And then my buddy and I would play loud, obnoxious songs in the arcade to just bother everybody. It was a magical time. So I went to Taft Jr. High, and in Spanish class, the teacher was Mrs. Marshall. I'm never going to forget Mrs. Marshall. Let me ask you this. Was there ever a teacher in your life that really made an impression on you? Maybe that helped you out or opened your eyes to a new career or something that you really enjoyed? Let me know in the comments. But Mrs. Marshall was my Spanish teacher. And I didn't get off on the right foot, I guess. No, I'm sure I didn't get off on the right foot. I sat in the back of class with the rest of the hooligans, and we didn't learn Spanish per se. We learned Spanish naughty body parts. And so they would point, teach me the words. So I did learn some Spanish, but not what Mrs. Marshall really wanted us to learn. So Mrs. Marshall wanted us all to really get involved with conversational Spanish. So she gave us all Spanish names. And of course, with Jeff, there wasn't much choice. So, because you didn't want to call me El Jefe, because that means the boss. And I was the boss, but anyway, she didn't want me to be known as the boss. So they called me Paco. It doesn't mean Jeff. It doesn't. And so they would make fun of me and call me Paco Taco. And it was really something. It turns out I really wasn't good at Spanish. I tried. I had these notepads, yellow notepads with little grooves cut in the bottom, and I would go to different verbs because we learned all the different verbs and, past imperfect and future imperfect. And it was more than I thought because, like I said, I knew how to do naughty body parts and have conversations about them. But the rest of it was just so difficult. I could ask you, ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? I could ask you that. But beyond that, it was like, I had a lot of trouble. And I got in so much trouble that I was going to get a D. And so Mrs. Marshall called my mom and just told her, said, look, Paco needs to work harder at Spanish. And so my mom sat me down and said, look, man, you need to work hard on Spanish. I said, all right, I'll do it. And so I was really, really trying, and the quizzes I was okay and not so good. And I knew the final was coming. And the final was, I don't know, a big percentage of the grade. I was bad in math, so don't ask me about Spanish or percentages. I was just not very good. And so, but I found out that the day of the final was the day of Mrs. Marshall's birthday. And I hatched a plan. And I said, I think we could get out of the final if we throw her a birthday party, and maybe she will just do us all a solid and let us all pass and give us A's or something. And so I got a collection. I was very entrepreneurial back in the day. Who would know that about me? And so I did a collection, and we got her a cake and balloons and noisemakers and party hats, and we really did it up. And so I brought everything in and I passed everything out. And then right around the time that we were going to, get the final, I said, I have an announcement to make. And I tried to speak Spanish and it just didn't work out. And so I told her, I said, Mrs. Marshall, we really appreciate you so much. And then the waterworks was starting and she was starting to cry. And I said, God really gave us a blessing when he gave us you. And I just piled it on and she just started crying. She goes, oh, that's so beautiful. And we brought up the cake and lit the candles and, sang happy birthday in Spanish. I did know a little. And so we sang her happy birthday and she was just crying. Her mascara was running, all that. And she goes, oh, Paco. What a great thing. It's just so beautiful. I'm so happy to be your teacher, in the escuela. And so I said, oh, well, Mrs. Marshall, we really love you. And I was wondering, are we not going to have the final today? I've never seen a woman just dry up that quick. She goes, oh, we're having the final today. I go, man, I thought I had her. I did not. I did not. My work did not work. And so we took the final. I said a few prayers on the way home when we went back to the arcade and played loud, obnoxious Kiss songs. And I got a C in the class. C for cake didn't work. Oh, man. So did you do anything crazy like that in a class in your school? Did you do anything like that to get out of a grade or get a better grade or whatever? Tell me in the comments and make sure it's not really bad. So tell me in the comments if you did anything close to similar. And this is a true story. All of this is true. Anyway, so Mrs. Marshall, I'm never going to forget her. And man, almost got a D. I think I got 1 D in school. And I tried to explain, Mom, I said, it's passing. It says barely passing, but it's passing. And Mom just said, look, this is not good. You need to not do that. All right. If you're still here viewing this, you're my people. Thank you so much. So do me a favor. Please subscribe to our channel or share this out to friends that maybe didn't do that well in Spanish class, or make extra credit if you share this to a Spanish teacher. Boy, that's extra credit for you. That would be just wonderful. Till next time, this is Jeff. See you later. Bye-bye.